In today's FX markets, let's take a look at the Australian dollar as it's moving higher today. Australian dollar coming off with some pretty heavy selling pressure in the previous session, which negated some higher price action late last week. But today we're finding some stability and a little bit higher price action as we work through the markets here today, and seeing that unfold pretty much across the board in the FX futures markets today, with the Australian dollar holding on to a slight gain here today, currently priced at 0.649 off the intraday highs, but still higher on the session. Driving factors, a couple things. Number one, it appears that US dollar is under some pressure. We're seeing a higher price action across the board in the FX quadrant. So after a strong session yesterday, the US dollar hesitating a little bit. And there's a couple things I think influencing it. Number one, we did see labor market data this morning, JOLTS job openings. Now that did come in a pretty strong format as far as higher openings and indicating that the labor market remains strong. Now, we did see the Australian dollar sell off after that release this morning, but then as the markets work through that and some other storylines, particularly the Fed watch, as we have a lot of Fed officials speaking as we're closing in on a Fed announcement, and the market now anticipating that the Fed will, high probability that the Fed will move again in December, and I think that's another factor as to why we're seeing these FX futures markets reestablishing, at least for the short term, some higher price action here today. Now, looking at the general trends, Australian dollar is holding near the low end of the range of this basically 7-month plus range that we have established, with the Australian dollar coming off of the levels from yesterday, which were near the lower end of the range. So again, when you look at that price action, 0.645 appears to be the low end of the range here for the better part of this year. So we're hovering just above that. But when you look at the major FX futures markets across the board, higher price action today after selling pressure yesterday. We're seeing the euro, the Australian dollar, the British pound, the Japanese yen, all up about 0.25% on the day. So at least negating some of that selling pressure, with the Australian dollar here coming off of the intraday lows to hold on to gains after some selling pressure in the previous session.